Okay, and here's Fred Yelverton's second series on things to think about while you're still in the wintertime to help you do a better job of managing weeds in the summertime. Take it over, Fred.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Fred Yelverton, the turfgrass weed scientist at NC State, and we're going to talk about weed control in the wintertime. On the last issue or edition of Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll, we talked about pre-emergence herbicides. Today, what I'd like to talk about is weed control during the winter time, and that includes spraying Roundup on dormant Bermuda, or hopefully dormant Bermuda, in the winter time. So let's talk about that a second. So we've had a lot of concern this year. Now, obviously, we're sitting here now, and it's finally gotten cold, which actually is good. But we had a very warm December, and Bermuda grass was coming out of dormancy. And we had a lot of concern about if it was going to cause any damage to Bermuda with the pending cold weather coming. We know it's coming in January and February, right? So we had a lot of green Bermuda. So the question is what has the cold weather done to Bermuda? And particularly we have a lot of questions about ultra dwarf greens, which hopefully everybody's covering. Not everybody covers them, but if you're in North Carolina with ultra dwarf green, we highly recommend you cover them. First of all, I don't think we've had any damage yet. Most of the damage we have from winter injury on Bermuda grass or warm season grasses occurs when we have green up in late February, early March. We call them false starts, right? Where you really start to get green up, and then sometime in March you'll have 2 or 3 nights where temperatures drop down in the low 20s. If that occurs, say in middle of March after we're 25% green, that's a real danger zone there for centipede grass in particular, and St. Augustine grass, and secondarily I think Bermuda and zoysia. Zoysia is all over the map because of the difference in cold hardiness, but that's the time that we really worry about when we get those false starts, as we call them, for winter injury. I don't think we've had any of that yet, even though we were very green in December, and then we had this really cold. It was 17 degrees here at my house last night, but we had snow cover, and snow cover is good. Snow cover provides an insulating layer. I'd be much more concerned if we had 17 degrees in early March with no snow cover, and it just got down in the high teens or even low 20s for 2 or 3 nights in a row. That would concern me. So right now I think we're fine, but it does bring up questions about, for those of you guys who spray Roundup in the wintertime on Bermuda grass, and I've always liked that treatment. So I think now, here we are in February. I think February is a great month for you to do that. You ought to be dormant enough to apply the Roundup here in North Carolina. If you see a little tinge of green in the Bermuda, maybe 5 or 10%, it's going to set it back into dormancy, but our data suggests it doesn't cause any irreparable harm to Bermuda. You're going to delay green up a little bit, maybe 7 to 10 days if you do that. But using Roundup on dormant Bermuda is really important because it helps, particularly for POA control, because it helps us fight resistance. It's another mode of action. And it's also a cheap herbicide treatment. Now, the problem with Roundup in the winter is that you have to apply it on a warm day, and we're talking 60 degrees or higher, and if it's below 60 degrees, it just will not work at that pint per acre rate. And don't increase that rate, because rate is not important with Roundup. It's the air temperature that's what's important. So put out a pint above 60 degrees. We always get that in February. Now, the problem with that, of course, there's lots of problems with that. If it's nice and warm in February, you're going to have golfers. It may be too wet to get out and spray. I realize all that. That's a problem with Roundup in the winter. But when you have that opportunity, when you have that window, if you can fit that Roundup application in on a warm day, think 60 degrees or better, 70 degrees is even better, and I can tell you, we normally have 70-degree temperatures in most of North Carolina in late February. Now, it may be a 2 or 3 day little warm snap, but in most years we have it. Now, it could be followed by, 25 degrees. That's just the nature of our climate here, but take advantage of those warm days and to use your weed control practices. I might also add, this also really works for any kind of herbicide you're using. You really need to have a warm day or a couple of warm days to get those weeds, actually just perk them up a little bit and get them back in an active growth state, and it'll make control with herbicides much more effective. Another way to think of it on the flip side is, if it's really cold, if it's in the 40s, just don't waste your time. What happens is weeds, plants in general, they kind of shut down, and that cuticle gets very difficult to penetrate, and no, you can't make a herbicide go through it if that plant's not growing, regardless of what you put in the spray tank. Maybe that's a topic for another Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll, but think about warm weather. That's what you need to get effective weed control in the winter. So thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you on the next edition sometime.